So good evening, everyone. Looking up here, you say that he's not Dan Driscoll. No. I'm Jim McDonald, Chair of the Select Board. Unfortunately, Dan is not able to be here tonight. I'm sure he is watching. So we wish him well. And you know, tonight is something that we haven't done in this town since I think 2006. The first time that I suggested we do it was 2004. That's a long time ago. And you know, we went over to Northeastern and we had a great conversation, and myself and Nancy Baker were looking at the agendas. And the things that were listed, you can sort of check off the boxes because the town has accomplished that within the last 20 years. But with the pandemic, you know, a lot of us haven't been together at all, except maybe saying hi to each other at town meeting or other events. So I thought it was time to reinstitute, you know, a summit type of meeting. And as we go forward throughout the year, maybe do it more frequently and involve more people and have time for question and answers, which we don't have tonight. So before we begin, first of all, I want to thank the superintendent of schools, Denise Maroney, custodians, audiovisual staff, town manager's office, because there was a lot of moving parts to get this for tonight with the weather and the school closed, and really appreciate the efforts that the school department did to get the school open for us, and we definitely appreciate it. And the reason why we didn't really want to push it, there's so much going on, people are busy, and everybody had this on their calendar, so we'll move forward. So first of all, thank you for agreeing to participate and share a little bit about the work that your committee, your board, your commission is doing. And really, thanks for being a part of what is good about our time. And that's your time and your talent that you share with everyone. You know, all our boards and commissions and committee members are all volunteers. You know, nobody does this for money. They do it for the love of their community and to try to make a difference. And that's what everybody here is, and for those that are watching. So just going to go through a few rules tonight. Joe Hamilton has graciously agreed. You see the clock in front of me. I've been talking about the time that you have to speak. And while I don't have any music to play you off, we will politely ask you to wrap up. And the reason being is that if you look at the agenda, there's a lot of people that are going to talk tonight. And we want to be fair to everyone. We want to give them the allotted time. So if you go over too much, then that's going to impact somebody else. So I know this is used at town meeting. Thank you, and we'll just move forward with that. And as you see, thanks, Amanda, the QR code, there's no handouts here tonight. If you scan that, it's going to take you to the town website and all the materials and information that is available tonight. So that being said, the first 10 minutes, no, I'm only kidding. The first speaker for tonight is going to be Town Council Lauren Goldberg. I should have moved it over to you. I'm sorry, Lauren. Thank you.
I was saying, Jim, that's really going to be a challenge for me. You know how much I like to talk.
All right, that's 30 seconds.
Okay. So I just wanted to kind of go over the real basics of open meeting, public records, and conflict of interest law for you all, just to kind of let you know where things are at the state level, and also just to give you my kind of, laws in a nutshell perspective. These are all called sunshine laws, and essentially what their intent is to make the business of the public available to the public, whether by attending and listening to discussions about policies as boards make decisions, or through access to records that board and committee members may create. And then finally, the conflict of interest law, which says The town has to be your number one priority, and you can't have an interest that's more important than the town's. If you do, then you have to recuse yourself. So the first one, open meeting law, everybody knows, need to post at least 48 weekday hours ahead. Paul, that goes to your office. And the agenda, there's a form available. The agenda has to be specific as to the items to be discussed, not general statements, specificity. Not just, petition for special permit, but petition for a special permit with the address and the name of the person who asked for the permit. So that's one example. In addition, the boards are required to keep minutes of their meetings under the new open meeting law since 2011. You're required to have a more substantive recitation of what happened at the meeting. It doesn't have to be verbatim, but it has to let people know what happened. And then finally, one of the things that we've been dealing with, and I know you all are, is the open meeting law extension, which will expire on March 31st. And that was what allowed boards and committees, or allows boards and committees, to have remote or partially hybrid meetings. It is anticipated, and I don't know if there's anything else that people have heard, but it's anticipated that it's just going to be another extension. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens. So that's the open meeting law. Public records law. The important thing to know about that is that any record made or received in your official capacity as a town appointee or elected official is in fact a public record, and it doesn't matter where that record resides, whether it's on your telephone, as a text message or an email. So be thoughtful about when you use your devices for corresponding about town business, and be thoughtful about what you put in those correspondences. In addition, the conflict of interest law, and the conflict of interest law, essentially my shortcut way to describe it is, if you feel like a little weird about voting on something, and I know this is very lawyerly, or participating in a vote, then you probably shouldn't. You should check first to make sure you don't have a conflict. You're prohibited from participating in something in which you have a financial interest if you're elected. You're prohibited in participating in something in which you have a financial interest if you're appointed, unless your appointing authority says otherwise. When you come across a situation like this, the conflict of interest law has criminal sanctions for violating the law, so it is very worthwhile to be conservative about what kind of things you would participate in. At a minimum, if it just looks like a conflict, no financial interest, no one in your family, your immediate family has a financial interest, you should file a General Law 268A Section 23B disclosure that basically says, although this might look funny, I can make a decision based on the facts and the interests of the town rather than on my own relationship with so-and-so who I've known since they were 5, kind of thing. So that's one thing you can do if there's not an actual conflict. If you wind up in a meeting and you think, oh my gosh, I do business with this person, I didn't even realize they were gonna be here, you have a couple options. You can if you're elected, you can make a statement on the record saying, I have no financial interest, but we've been business partners, just so that everybody knows. The other option is to choose to recuse yourself. And the reason I wanted to focus on recusal is because that is different than abstaining from the vote. If you are sitting at the table during a deliberation on something in which you are worried you might have a financial interest in, then by not getting up and leaving, you are deemed by the Ethics Commission, leaving the table, deemed by the Ethics Commission to have participated. So again, if you get that funny feeling, oh, I just don't feel right about this, I really want to do a little research, you can stand up and just say, I'm going to recuse myself for this. You're allowed to sit in the audience, but you're not allowed to get preferential treatment based on your position. So understanding the difference between just abstaining from voting and what participation is for purposes of the conflict of interest law is key. If you feel funny, you feel a red flag, you feel like someone else is going to say that you shouldn't have done what, you shouldn't have been sitting there or whatever it might be, then you should formally recuse yourself. You don't need to give an explanation. You just get up from the table, say, I'm going to recuse myself, and go and sit in the audience. I think I'm done.
You tell me.
5 minutes and 37 seconds, and I wasted 30 already.
So I will tell you that there was a supplemental piece of legislation filed today, extension of the remote for meetings, 3/31/25. So they're looking to kick the can down the road for 2 more years, as well as outdoor dining and a bunch of other stuff.
That's great. Thank you. Hopefully that happens before the end of the first one expires. We'll see. All right, take care.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, everybody.
Thank you. So while Paul Munchback is coming up, I just want to introduce the members of my board that are here as well. Kevin Coughlin, Demetrius Sullivan, Aaron Bowles-Welsh, and Dr. Tian, who will be speaking. Paul?
Thank you, Jim. We'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, the audience at home that's watching. My name is Paul Munchback, and I'm your Dedham Town Clerk. I'll tell you a little bit about the Town Clerk's office and how we interact throughout the day and throughout the year. A little bit about myself. I've been in local government for just about 40 years, just under 40 years. I ran for town meeting when I was 19 years old after serving a town meeting. I then ran and I was elected to the Park and Recreation Commission. From there, I went and did a couple of terms as a member of the Select Board. From there, I was elected to your Town Clerk, where I've served for about 17 years. I think of the Town Clerk's office as the heartbeat of our local government and to our town hall. It's probably the first interaction that many of the residents or outside residents have with our local government. Whether it's coming in for their census, registering to vote, or just asking questions. And I take great pride in that, and so does my staff. Our staff in our office consists of 4 personnel: myself, an assistant town clerk, and 2 election specialists. We also have an election commission. The election commission, which oversees our elections and our census, and you can probably see them at town meeting, is made up of myself, Cheryl Schoenfeld from the Democratic Town Committee, and then Elaine DeGrandis, who's our chairperson, and Robert Zucker from the Republican Town Committee. We also have over 60, and it can go up to 100 depending on the time of the year, election workers or election personnel that are trained throughout the year for the different elections, whether it's a state, federal, or just a local election that we have that work throughout the year for the polls. Some of the responsibilities for the town clerk, I serve, as I mentioned, as the chief election official for the town, in charge of our local elections, but also in charge of state, federal, and any other special elections that may happen. We also do recounts. We've done dual elections with the help and always the support of our council, Lauren Goldberg, who's been there and very supportive and does a great job for us. We have, in the town, everything is governed by our either Mass General laws or federal laws for our elections, or when doing our local elections is governed by our town charter or our local bylaws. And all that is decided basically by our town meeting members, which is our legislative body. One of the things the town clerk's office does is conducts the annual town census, once again mandated by Mass General law. Those are the census forms that you might have already received. All we ask you to do is just fill them out, any updates, give them, send them back to us. But we mail out about 11,000 of those a year, and we probably get about an 80% turn-in rate for that. So that's something that we also work on. Also, as the town clerk, I'm the keeper of the records. All the records in the town, dating back to 1636, which the town clerk's office has the original covenant, the original town report from the town. It was also looked at by the Smithsonian as a historical record. They wanted to take it down to Washington, but I said since 1636, the covenant has not left the town clerk's office, so I'm not going to be the clerk that gives it away. So it's still there for anybody that needs it. But all the marriages, births, deaths, we also have the marriage intentions. Those are all kept in our office also, plus all the town reports, minutes, and meetings as they're turned in. We're also the licensing board for the town of Dedham. We do dog licenses, over 1,600 of those a year. We do business certificates, underground storage permits. We also have municipal liens that are in our office. The other thing that we are is that I'm the keeper of the seal The sale cannot be used, the town sale, without the town clerk's permission, and that's something that I take very proudly of. Also, I administer the oath of office. Any town meeting rep, any elected official or appointed board cannot take their official office until they've been sworn in by the town clerk. They've signed the official record book, which is kept in the town clerk's office. At that time, we also swear in all our police officers and firefighters that also have a special oath that they take, including our fire chief and police chief. Some of the other things that we do is we work within not only the State Department with the local offices in the town, because the town clerk's office is part of a team, right? The elections cannot take place without working with the school department, working with the Department of Public Works, working with the Board of Health, working with the fire department, the DPW. A lot of those departments, we cannot get the elections complete without coordinating with them, also the police department, and making sure that we provide the safest, most efficient election for our residents. So we're a big part of a team, and we interact with a lot of the offices up at Town Hall. But we also interact with the state agencies. We interact with the Secretary of State's office on a daily basis, the Attorney General's office, the Department of Revenue, Campaign Political Finance. We also interact with the Federal Census Bureau. That comes out once every 10 years. That's when we redistrict the precincts. That's federally mandated on a population shift to make sure that the federal congressional districts and your representative districts are all maintained and they're equally distributed. Some of the other things that the town clerk's office does, I know it seems a lot, but we're a very busy office and we take pride in that, is we do a lot of outside work. We do voter registration drives. We've done them at the high school. We've done them at the assisted living facilities. We've worked with the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts to help them earn their merit badges by coming up and looking at our old records, providing information for them that they can take on in the future. We work with the animal control officer, and we do rabies clinics with the Animal Rescue League also. Those are some of the things that we do outside of just the office space. Some of the things that we have coming up, and I know I'm running short on time, is that we have the election coming up. Our elections are governed by our town charter and our bylaws, and with that is our elections, town elections, are always held the second Saturday of April. Okay, so we don't pick the dates. The dates are already picked by the legislative body, by town meeting. And that election this year will be on Saturday, April 8th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., as they usually are. And because of the Votes Act of 2022 that was just put in place, we have some additional events that will allow voters a little bit more flexibility when voting. In the previous, you had the ability to vote by absentee, but that was restrictive. If it was by religious, disability, or if you're just out of town, you could vote by absentee. Now, by the Votes Act, we're allowed to vote by no excuse mail-in ballots. Those ballots can be filled out online. We have, if you go to the town's Q code in the website, you'll have an application for the mail-in ballots. You can fill that out. If you feel that an absentee ballot is better suited to what you need to do, you can fill out that application, get it to us. We will then, once the ballots come in, we will then provide you with a ballot and you can vote that way. We also, because of the success of in-person early voting, we have provided, the Board of Registers, along with the Select Board, voted to provide in-person early voting on the weekend before the town election. So April 1st and April 2nd from 9 to 3 at Town Hall, you can vote early voting in person. Those ballots will then get processed and sent down to the polling location. We realize that the election this year is on Easter weekend, so for some families or some voters, it might provide a little bit of a challenge, but we want to make sure we met that challenge by giving everyone the opportunity to have that chance to vote. So we made sure that we had the early voting in person placed, so the weekend before, so people had enough time. Like I said, mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. The last day to apply for those is that Monday, April 3rd by 5 p.m. And the last thing, just to wrap it up, and I apologize, Mr. Chairman, with Dan Driscoll's not here, I just want to mention that we work closely with our town moderator with town meeting. For all those representatives that are elected, we have a legislative body of 273 town meeting reps that make our decisions, whether it's from our operating budget to zoning to land transfers. We meet twice a year. Once again, the first part of we meet the third Monday of May, and that's situated by charter and bylaw. And then it gives the option, we meet again for a fall annual town meeting in November at some point. The date is then selected by the select board. And with the representatives there, after the elections, the town moderator will have a new person, a new elected town meeting rep orientation he does with the deputy moderator, Cheryl Sheehan, that helps provide information for those two new town meeting reps to let them know the format. And just on a note that our town meeting representatives' participation is one of the highest in the state as far as participation of town meeting representatives showing up and voting and participating at town meeting. So I once again want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule. I apologize for going over.
How much did you go over?
Well, I used some of Dan Driscoll's time. But I want to thank you guys, and please use the QR code if you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Dr. Tian, and following Dr. Tian, the select board is the ZBA. So wherever you are, just be ready.
Thank you very much,
Dennis?
Mr. Chair. And I will try to be brief as well, not always my strength. I represent the Select Board tonight. For those that don't know me, I'm Dennis Tian. We have all the members of the board here, Jim McDonald, Aaron Bowles-Welsh, Demetri Sullivan, and Kevin Coughlin. And I'm just going to go briefly through a few things about some of the things we're working on, what we're doing, and where we've been the last couple of years. First and foremost, the Select Board continues to place emphasis and priority on the town budget and finances. The town maintains good financial health. We have a AAA bond rating, and we continue to work hard to ensure that we're following sensible accounting and financial practices. Taxes have increased the last few years. That's obvious, the elephant in the room. But to put some context in that, we are right now 13th of 27th in the county in tax bill average for a single family tax bill. That's not rate, that's your actual bill. And FY22 and FY23. So to give some context to that as well, in fiscal year 2014, we were 12th in the county. So even with all we've accomplished, we've done the buildings, we've done everything we have achieved in the last 9 years, our relative position has improved to other communities in Norfolk County, which I think is interesting. And we also have $8.1 million in excess levy capacity. As you know, there are limits as to how much we can increase our taxes every year. We are well below the limits. We are second lowest in the county, behind only Quincy, in terms of our available levy capacity. That said, I think the board does place emphasis on and acknowledges the fact that we have to work hard over the next few years in terms of belt tightening. We have to really be judicious about how we spend money. And we know that the light at the end of the tunnel is there, but it's still a few years away. And I think we do see that it's going to be a couple tough years. So we really are going to work hard, not only to tighten belts, but also, as Aaron Welsh reminded us today, to explore all potential sources of revenue and income for the town, because we need to make sure that we don't want to make decisions that are reckless and that end up costing us too much down the road. And I think that will only hurt us. Some of the other things the ARPA money. We did have ARPA money, which is money from the federal government. Some of it was given to us directly. Some of us was given it to us through the county. I think the money that was given available to us through the county, there are a lot of restrictions on it and how we can and can't use it. There was a presentation at the board about that last week. And there's a whole, set of rules to that, which I won't go into right now, but we are trying to use that money as best we can to help our citizens and our taxpayers out get things done that we need to get done, so that if we can't directly use that money to lower taxes, we can indirectly take some of the pressure off of our citizens and taxpayers. So it's certainly a point of emphasis for us this year and in the coming years that we face what will likely be some challenges. Public safety building, we're very proud of that building. That's a need, right? We had to do it. It was long overdue. We're proud to say that building looks like it's going to come in somewhere around $500,000 under budget, which is terrific. It should be opening in the next few weeks. And at long last, it will give us a building that we can be proud of. It It will protect our firefighters. It will provide proper facilities for female officers, victims, and prisoners, which is important because we don't have that and have not had that. We're way behind the times in that regard in the current facility. It's just not, the police station right now is just not befitting of a 21st century police department with the facility that they have. And now we will finally have a facility that is worthy of our police, our excellent police department, and of course our citizens, taxpayers, and all those that require the help of police and fire. The Ames building is open, finally. That was a process, of course, and we worked very hard to get that building open. It was a lot of judgment, a lot of difficult situations, a lot of difficult decisions by all of us, a lot of communication, but we navigated our way through it, and we're proud to say the building is open. There were extra costs incurred because of the delays, and I do want to mention that we do have active litigation against the contractor to potentially recoup some of those costs, and that situation remains very much ongoing, but I think that it is certainly not over yet, and we remain optimistic and enthusiastic about pursuing that. We have a school building that we have to make a decision on, and that's not so much a select board decision directly, of course, but we do have a representative on the SBRC, Mr. Kevin Coughlin. I see John Tochi here tonight somewhere. This is a critical decision for the town. It will affect our finances. It will affect our taxes. So I think that's where the board really comes into play on that one. And I think our main goal right now is just to support the SBRC in the process, the amazing process that they're doing, because they are just doing such an impressive job of engaging people, having meetings, site walkthroughs, all the stuff they're doing. And I really feel like it's going to yield dividends down the road as we go through this process. The board has supported several notable recent projects to improve our community in the last few years. To give a few examples, going back a few years, Gonzalez Field, somewhat recently we've done that. That was a Park and Rec initiative, but obviously the board supported that. We did a playground in the Manor, which is great because I used to live in the Manor. There is no playground within walking distance down there. Well, now there was no, now there is one. A wonderful amenity down there. Jim McDonald worked extremely hard with several of the individuals in the community to get that done, and now it is done. We have an awesome town green project that we're working on that I think everyone should be excited about. It's going to be a real crown jewel, I think, for our town in a place that is absolutely critical, highly visible and important spot. Finally, we're going to have a green space in Dedham Square. If you want to go and have an ice cream or a cup of coffee, you don't have to sit out and dodge traffic in front of Ron's. You'll have a bench and sit down in a nice little park. I think that is just such a wonderful thing and long overdue. We worked together with the Motherbrook Motherbrook Community Arts Center to build the elevator, and to fund the elevator that they need for their building. And I think we came up with a great moderate strategy compromise to get that done. And I think that the Motherbrook Arts Center is a terrific asset for our community. And so we have to work together to keep that asset working and available. And I think we're able to do that. We recently voted to create a working group to look at fields. Now, fields aren't something that the select board always looks at. But at the same time, there's a lot of different actors that go into how fields are given and where sports are played in this town. And I can honestly say, when I think about it, next to taxes, my 9 years on the board, I think I hear more citizens talking to me about fields than anything else. So it's time to bring people together and create a table. And that's what we try to do, bring the actors together, create a table, and try to come up with the most efficient way to reach some solutions in a tough financial time where we don't have a lot of extra money. But I think there are solutions out there that we can achieve. And then we have a Wigham Pond study group as well. So we're looking at Wigham Pond. We're trying to figure out what we can do down there, what's going to work in the neighborhood, what's going to work financially, how we pay for it. Very preliminary right now, but I think an exciting time. Wigham Pond is an underutilized amenity. It's been neglected from an environmental perspective. Working down there, doing something down there creates opportunity to not only make an amenity for residents, but improve the environmental health of the area, which is huge. That's a tough area. That's a tough area, right next to Route 1. The meeting we had a few weeks ago, they were talking about how much pollution seeps into the water there. Well, it makes a lot of sense. Look where it is. It's right next to a paved area all around it. So it's time that we put some emphasis down there and cleaned it up and made it maybe accessible. We have a transfer station and a Keystone lot. These are two pieces of land the town owns. We really haven't done much with yet, and I think it's time the board feels like we have to move forward and start to make some action in that regard. You know, the Dedham Square study group was great in the Town Green project. I see Jessica Porter here. We have to continue maybe to work together with that group to figure out what we're going to do at Keystone. We have a transfer station working group. We have to continue to move it forward and make some kind of plan for that land. This is town-owned land, and it's valuable land. It's valuable land, and it can pay back to our taxpayers. So we need to really, I think, get serious about what we do. We have to continue to work with community groups to make Dedham a place that's welcome for all, right? We've done a lot in the last few years, actually, in that regard, just to run through the list, and I know I'm running short of time. Social worker on the Dedham Police Department, that's a big asset for our community, for our police. A proclamation condemning racism, anti-Semitism with the Jewish Defense Council, anti-Christian hate speech. We made a proclamation celebrating Juneteenth, acknowledging Indian American and Arab American heritage, and we've set a town goal to improve diversity in the town, and we continue to support seniors and veterans. So we really want to make it so everyone feels welcome and included in Dedham. That's important to us, and it should be important to everyone. We're working to find solutions to outdoor dining, sustainable outdoor dining program, and this will be discussed at our meeting on Thursday. But I think that, I think the board is optimistic that we'll be able to continue that and find a ways. Our capital projects, right? We are working on our roads. 2007, our PCI scores were in the range of fair, and now over the last 15 years, we've improved them almost to the best category, good. We improved the score from 70 to 85. So they objectively grade our roads. Our roads are much, much better now than they were 15 years ago, and that's just that's what the data and statistics are telling us. So that's a good thing. We have collective bargaining stability. All of our units are under contract until June 30th of 2024, which is a great thing. We value and believe we have to take care of our town employees. Our police and fire, we have been fair, they have been fair with us, and we have been able to have stability. We support these people. These are the backbone of our community, are the women and men that work in our town hall, our police, our fire, our DPW, so we value that. We hope to continue to use hybrid meetings to allow greater participation pending an extension. Hybrid meetings have been a great thing for our community. They open the door to participation. I have 3 kids, right? All of us are busy. It's hard to get to a meeting. Sometimes it's easy to get onto Zoom, and it's great. And you look at some of the participation that we've had in some of these meetings, it's a great thing. And then we hired a communications director. She's here tonight, Amanda Smith. A huge need, not a want, a need. We needed to be able to engage people better, and Amanda has just been such an asset to our community, and we really appreciate her. And then we've implemented a performance eval system for non-union employees. So we've done a lot. Some of the challenges we face, I'll wrap up in a minute. Real estate market is shifting tax burden from commercial properties to residential. And if you don't know, we are limited by state law into how much of our tax burden we can actually ask commercial properties to pay for, to put it simply. And right now, we can't ask many more of our commercial properties. And as the commercial values go down, that means that in terms of the valuation, that means that a lot of burden is coming onto our residential properties. And that's part of the reason why the taxes have been so high, is the relative decline in commercial property to residential property. So it's a real challenge for us and something we're very considerate of trying to find solutions for as best we can. The pandemic negatively impacted the REIS fund, and I think we got into the public safety building knowing we were going to be pushing the REIS fund. That was votes at town meeting. It was heavily discussed. Everything was presented. It was transparent. We voted that building knowing what we were doing, but then, the pandemic hit, which none of us could have foresaw, and it put a lot extra stress with hotels and restaurants really not producing the revenue that they had for a couple of years. It put more stress on the REIS fund. So we really have to figure out solutions that we have to make that better. And talk about outdoor dining, that's certainly one, right? Supporting our restaurants, because we get a chunk of that into our REIS fund every time someone eats a meal in Dedham. And then we've completed a lot of capital projects in the last few years. We really have. It's amazing when you think about what this community has come together to accomplish in the last 15 years. But there are still a lot of needs that need to be addressed, and we have to work together to continue to strategically plan with all of us. So I'll leave it at that. That was a real quick crash course in everything we've done in the last decade. So if there's any questions, I'll exit. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No questions, Dennis.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Zoning Board of Appeals, Sarah Rosenthal, and just want to also acknowledge when Dennis was talking about the Manor Playground, Demetrius Sullivan was a big help on the Select Board as Jim Mara and the whole Manor neighborhood got together to make that happen. So just want to also acknowledge them. And Sarah, introduce yourself.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Rosenthal, and I am the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals and a registered architect in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I am honored to be here tonight to speak with you about the work of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the importance of zoning regulations in our community. The Zoning Board of Appeals is an essential part of our town's government, responsible for hearing and deciding on applications for special permits and variances for particular types of land or structures. Our board is made up of 5 members and 2 alternates, all of whom are appointed by the Select Board. The Zoning Board is comprised of 1 attorney at law, 1 civil engineer, 1 person that is either an architect, structural, or mechanical engineer, or a master builder, or a person with 10 or more years of experience in construction or supervision of the construction of buildings. That person is me. We meet on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. All activities of the board are conducted in open meetings. In accordance with the Chapter 39 of the Massachusetts General Law, the board is supported by the great staff of the Planning and Zoning Department. Our goal is to treat all applicants fairly, with courtesy, and to render decisions in a timely manner. We understand the impact that zoning regulations can have on individuals and businesses in our community, and we take that responsibility seriously. We are proud of the work that has been done in the past year and look forward to continuing to serve the town in the years to come. I am pleased to share with you some of the key highlights of the Zoning Board of Appeals work in 2022. Over the course of the year, the board held 12 meetings and considered 44 petitions for variances and/or special permits, with 30 of these applications being for residential purposes, 11 for commercial use, and 1 for mixed-use development. Some of the notable commercial applications we have, as a board, have heard and approved include the following: an Eversource property at 11 Cecil Place, which was granted a special permit to extend the pre-existing non-conforming essential services use, as well as a special permit for work in the floodplain overlay district. Kelly's Roast Beef at 725 Providence Highway, which received a special permit to operate a restaurant with a drive-through component and a variance for building area ratio. Oscar's at 380 Washington Street, which was granted a special permit to expand the existing restaurant with no off-street parking and seating for up to 74 patrons. Chick-fil-A at 140 Providence Highway, which received a variance for a freestanding drive-through canopy located near the setback where 25 feet is typically required. A substance abuse treatment clinic at 600 Providence Highway, which was granted a special permit to operate in an existing building with a floor area of approximately 6,400 square feet. Another exciting one is iFly at 930 Providence Highway, which received a special permit to demolish a non-conforming restaurant building and construct a new building to be used for recreational skydiving, along with a variance for building height. A recurring fun annual application reviewed by the board is a special permit for the temporary trailer to store the Thanksgiving turkeys at 300 Legacy Place for Whole Foods. Residential applications heard by the board range from small additions of mudrooms that may increase pre-existing non-conforming setbacks to full-story additions that both intensify and increase already non-conforming sites that were existing when the zoning bylaws were adopted. The Zoning Board of Appeals' thorough review of these and other cases is a testament to our commitment to maintaining the integrity of the Town of Dedham zoning bylaws while also supporting the growth and development of our community. As we look ahead to 2023, it appears to be a quieter year for development projects in the town going through the Zoning Board of Appeals process. Thus far, the projects have been primarily focused on residential applications, including 3 proposed additions to existing homes. In January and February, the board reviewed 2 commercial applications, 1 for micropigmentation services and another for floral design. March will consist of 1 commercial application for veterinary services and a kennel. While the volume of applications may be lower than in previous years, the Zoning Board of Appeals remains committed to reviewing each application thoroughly and ensuring that they comply with the town's zoning bylaws and regulations. In closing, I would like to thank everyone for attending the summit and for your interest in the Zoning Board of Appeals. The board's commitment to treating all applicants fairly and rendering decisions in a timely manner is our top priority. As we reflect on the highlights of the board in 2022, we see a diverse range of applications from essential services to restaurants and substance abuse treatment clinics. As we look ahead to projects in 2023, we encourage all interested parties to attend our monthly meetings and participate in the process. We all know time is valuable, and we appreciate your continued involvement as part of the Dedham community. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Next, Health Director Kylie Sullivan, and Leanne Jassett, the Chair of the Board, is here as also. But Kylie, you know, during the last few years, the COVID and the pandemic really has brought the health department, and having worked with Kylie and others over the course of this real tough time, it's really, I gotta really give it to her, because you are amazing. I mean, even bringing COVID tests for us today.
Please take them.
A difficult job. I mean, there was so much going on, but I just want to acknowledge and say thank you for the work that you did and have continued to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kylie Sullivan, and I'm the Health Director here in Dedham. This evening, I'm going to provide you an update about the Board of Health on behalf of the Board of Health. We have our Chairwoman, Leanne Jassett, here with us this evening, but the Board of Health is also made up of our Vice Chair, Noreen Guilfoyle, and Bernadette Chirokis, the third member. The board creates local regulations and enforces local, state, and federal regulations to promote and protect the environment and health of the community. With this, there are many permits issued and inspections conducted to ensure compliance with these regulations. I'm just going to review a few of those permits that we issue. It's not a comprehensive list, but all this is on the town website. Probably the largest subset of permits that are issued through the Board of Health would be permits for food establishments. And so these permits are issued to restaurants, grocery stores, retail convenience stores, farmers markets, vendors, schools, and other one-day events where food is served, such as Dedham Day, where we have various food vendors. The Board of Health also issues permits for tobacco retailers, for public and semi-public pools, as well as septic systems. And so the vast majority of properties in Dedham are connected to public sewer. However, there are some neighborhoods in the town where that's just not feasible given the geography or the distance to the sewers. And as a result, these properties have septic systems on site. So the Board of Health is involved in reviewing those septic system plans and issuing permits to ensure the work is conducted in compliance with the state's Title V regulations. The Board of Health also issues permits for domestic animals, and in 2022, the board amended the domestic animal regulations, which now require all properties keeping chickens in Dedham to receive a permit. Finally, one thing that will be coming up in the spring and summer are our recreational camps for children permits. So these are issued to camps, your typical summer camps, so Nobles, DHAC, and so forth. So we'll be issuing permits and conducting inspections to ensure that these facilities meet the health and safety requirements that are outlined by the state. Again, that's not a comprehensive list of all the permits and inspections conducted through the Board of Health. It just is a taste for you. But in addition to those inspections that are conducted due to those permits that are issued, the board also conducts housing inspections. And so these inspections are to enforce the state's minimum standards of fitness for human habitation. Right, these regulations will be updated in just a couple of months in April, which is exciting for us as we've been enforcing this code for numerous decades, so it's nice that it's being updated to be more relevant to current times. Typically, housing inspections are conducted when a renter or an occupant has concerns about the conditions of their apartment or their house. These inspections may also be conducted when there's clutter or squalid conditions on a property. It's important to note that for housing inspections, an agent of the board must receive permission from the occupant on the property, or they must receive an administrative search warrant through the courts in order to conduct the inspection. There are other services that are provided to the community through the Board of Health that are not just inspections and permits, which is nice, but there are also annual vaccination clinics. So that's primarily seen through annual flu clinics for seniors and for the general public. And in recent years, there have been COVID-19 clinics. The Board of Health also hosts a household hazardous waste collection day in conjunction with DPW every fall. The Household Hazardous Collection Day this year will be on October 21st, which is a Saturday at DBW from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. The Board of Health also offers year-round medical sharps collection, and this is offered to Dedham residents all year round. Whenever they have medical sharps they need to dispose, they can stop by Town Hall, 3rd floor, Health Department, and drop off their sharps, which is super great. But it is important to note that this is just for residents and not businesses that may be collecting or producing medical sharps. They would need to contract with a waste hauler for that. As Chairman McDonald alluded to earlier, in recent years the board has become a little more well-known, and that's as a result of COVID-19 and the communicable disease investigation and outreach work that has been done. However, this type of work has always been central to the Board of Health work. The board completes this type of work for numerous reportable diseases, including cholera, measles, polio, rabies, and tuberculosis, to name a few. And so the Health Department works closely with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health to respond to reports of these diseases and prevent the spread of these diseases, which hopefully, knock on wood, means you haven't had to hear too much about it because we've been responding to them and ensuring that folks are appropriately isolating and quarantining and not continuing with the spread. Looking at COVID-19 specifically, earlier this year, President Biden announced that the federal emergencies in response to the pandemic will end on May 11th of this year. With the end of this emergency designation to COVID, there will be a transition to more of an endemic response to the virus. And what essentially this means is that with an endemic response, we now assume there will be some level of cases of COVID in the community, whereas before, because it was such a new, novel disease, it was unusual that we had cases. But now, COVID has clearly made a point to let us know that it's sticking around, hence the COVID tests out in the lobby. So now we'll have more of a traditional healthcare approach to COVID. And with that, we'll see some changes primarily in the way treatment, testing, and vaccination costs are handled. Specifically, treatment expenses will change based on individual healthcare insurance coverage. Similarly, private insurers will no longer be required to cover testing without charge for both lab-based testing and over-the-counter tests. However, coverage may continue if plans choose to continue it given that plan. Medicare Part B will cover lab testing ordered by a provider, but over-the-counter tests will no longer be free for Medicare Part B recipients. Medicaid coverage, however, will exist through September 2024. COVID-19 vaccines generally will be covered similarly as testing will be, so through private insurance, Medicare Part B, and Medicaid. And finally, free over-the-counter tests from the federal government will be available based on supply and resources. So currently, the Board of Health has a supply of rapid antigen tests available, hence why we have them again in the lobby. And so currently we have those tests available to residents or businesses if they're in need of them, so they can always contact the health department or stop by and pick up tests. So we recently got that allotment, I would say probably at the beginning of 2023, but it's very likely that the government will no longer provide those to local health. So it's a resource that is fleeting in that regard. Overall, the Board of Health recommends that folks check in with their health insurance provider to determine how they will be affected by the lifting of the federal emergencies as it relates to COVID-19 response. And I just want to end by saying thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate your time and your attention. So thanks.
Thank you. So as the Finance and Warrant Committee member, John Heffen, is walking down, I just want to also acknowledge there's a lot of department heads that are here tonight. I can see some, and I'm just going to, for the sake of, if I forget somebody, please stand up. Jeremy from Planning. We have both Police and Fire Chief, Mike Donchamont, Bill Splain, John Arnett, Ken Semino. Of course, Amanda Kiley we just heard from, and of course, Dr. Kelly, who's going to be speaking, And it goes without saying, our Assistant Town Manager, Nancy Baker. Did I leave anybody else? And Bob Stanley. Thanks, Bob, for your help tonight too as well. Thank you. If you're pointing, I can't see with the light, so who did I miss? Aaron. Oh, Aaron. Aaron and Joe. And Ken? Kevin? Where's Kevin? Okay. Thank you. Why don't you all stand up? All the department heads that are in here, stand up. Thank you. You know, when Dan Driscoll talks about I can't see, now I know what he's talking about. John, thank you.
Okay, good evening. I am John Heffernan. I am on the Finance and Warrant Committee. I'm and also appointed by our committee to the SBRC. I am standing in tonight for Dave Roberts. As defined in the town bylaws, the Finance and Warrant Committee oversees and makes recommendations on all municipal financial matters, including the annual budget, financial management policy, and planning. Beginning on March 8th, the Finance and Warrant Committee will schedule 9 public meetings over a 4-week period. I refer to this as our sprint period. The committee will hold hearings on 23 of the 32 articles in the spring warrant, which includes the operating and capital budgets in the spring. At the conclusion of the public hearings, the committee will deliberate and make recommendations for a town meeting consideration. The committee meetings are held at the town hall, and the agendas are posted on the town website. All of the meetings will be hybrid, and the public is invited to attend in person or via Zoom. Of particular note, on Saturday, March 11th, the Finance and Warrant Committee will be conducting an all-day hearing starting at 8:30 a.m. Each department head will present their budget requests for FY24. This meeting is long, but provides very good information and understanding of our financial position for the next fiscal year. And from my own personal experience on the committee, what I do want to really emphasize is that we really encourage people to attend our hearings. I say our hearings, not our deliberations, because we get people to talk in hearings, but then we do the talking during our deliberations. So I'm highly encouraging people to come to our hearings. I have, in my experience, found that when we get good attendance in our hearings and we have people participating, we get better information in order to make a better recommendation to town meeting. And with that, I am going to stop here because you'll be hearing a lot more from me and our committee members over the next 4 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Conservation Chair, Stephanie Rader, and Alyssa Brown, Conservation Agent. And after then we'll follow by Planning and then School. Hi.
Good evening, folks. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Radner. I'm currently the chair of the Conservation Commission, and with me tonight is Alyssa Brown, the town's conservation agent. Unfortunately, Patrick Hogan, I don't think is able to be here tonight, but I think he's watching on TV, so hey, Patrick. I'm going to talk tonight about 3 things, 3 topics. One is the history of the Conservation Commission. Second topic is what do we do? And the third topic is what we would like to do, our goals for the future. So I'll start with the history lesson. In the late 1950s, the state passed some legislation called the clever name Conservation Commission Act. And what this act did was recognizing the need to protect natural and wetland resources at the local level. It enabled towns and cities, every city and town in the Commonwealth, to establish its own Conservation Commission. These commissions were charged with the promotion and protection of the town's natural and watershed resources, and there's about 2 more pages of information about what they do, what we do, and why we do it. Soon after, Dedham established its own Conservation Commission by vote of town meeting. That was back in March of 1962. The original legislation, if you read it, and it's all available in the conservation folder for the summit, it was a different description from what we do now. It was a lot similar, I think, to the Open Space and Recreation Committee. Among the responsibilities and duties and powers assigned to conservation commissions were things like conducting research into local land areas and creating an inventory, preparing and distributing documents, pamphlets, flyers, maps, charts, things like that, and plans to the community related to this research. Even a document proposed would be a conservation and passive outdoor recreation plan, which I think evolved into the Open Space Recreation Plan, to identify lands that should be retained for conservation and passive outdoor recreation, to work toward acquisition of such lands by various means, purchase, gift, eminent domain, all sorts of options listed, and to adopt rules and regulations governing the land use and management. Initially, the commission in Dedham had 5 voting members. At some point, that increased to 7, and there are 2 additional non-voting members so that we can get a quorum. We actually have a few vacancies, so if I'm selling this, you can put in your name. The commissioners are appointed by the select board, originally by the Board of Selectmen in the original documents, and there are no requirements. It would be nice, we should have a requirement for maybe an engineer, someone with that kind of experience. No requirements other than the willingness and the sort of interest in protecting natural resources to participate. So we are currently supported by a part-time agent, Alyssa Brown, and a full-time assistant agent, Patrick Hogan. And Patrick also supports the Open Space Committee and the Sustainability Committee. So I'll finish up my history lesson and bring us to our second topic, which is what we do now. The last bit of history is that in 1972, the state passed another bit of legislation called the Wetlands Protection Act, and they decided to give to the conservation commissions, the local commissions, the authority to administer the provisions of that act. Since that time, the commission has basically been a regulatory body. And I think I don't know what happened before then, but since then it's been, I think, time constraints for staff and commissioners reviewing all sorts of applications for wetlands and stormwater is pretty much what we do. So that's number 2. What do? We have meetings, we listen to applications about wetlands, work on wetland areas or near wetland areas, and stormwater management permits. First, I'll talk about wetlands. So what is a wetland? And people, Dedham has a lot of wetlands. We are 18, 20% wetlands. Wetland is actually, we sometimes call it a resource area in our meetings. Some of you may have heard that, is the land surrounding and beneath bodies of water, from rivers and streams, even intermittent streams, to ponds and lakes and swamps. It's the land, it's actually not the water. Ephemeral pools, which are vernal pools, are also protected land subject to flooding. So those lands are what we consider wetlands, and for some commissions in Massachusetts, it's actually beaches, sand dunes, and areas by estuaries and oceans. So we protect these lands because they're important for mitigating the effects of flooding, pollution, climate change. They're also crucial to the environmental health, and because it ties into our drinking water, public health within the community, within our town and surrounding towns. The Wetlands Protection Act lists 8 public interests, another vocabulary word, interests, which we don't use as often as we should, but these are the items, the list of the actual values that wetlands have to humans, and these are important. This is why we protect them. The 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act are protection of public and private water supply, protection of groundwater supply, flood control, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, protection of land containing shellfish, protection of fisheries, and protection of wildlife habitat. So that's what we think about when we're hearing applications. For work in and near wetlands, we have two general types of applications. Notice of intent, or NOI, many of you have heard, is an application about to do work in or near a wetland area that could potentially alter or cause damage to the wetland. The result of these applications is either an order of conditions or a denial. We work over long periods of time with applicants to have them modify plans so that they meet standards. So we don't do denials very often, but they do happen if an applicant just won't come to meet the terms. The second type of wetland application is called a request for determination of applicability. Some of you have heard that, or an RDA. This is sort of a request to do some work that might not cause damage, but is this work applicable? Like, do I need to ask for a permit? And interestingly, we can give a negative or a positive determination, and the negative is the favorable outcome because that means you will not be impacting a wetland. The positive means you will be affecting a wetland, and you need to come to us with an NOI, or sometimes we do special conditions, but that's what we do for wetlands. In 2022, we reviewed 26 wetland permits, both NOIs and RDAs. They both take a lot of time for the staff and the commissioners to review the applications. NOIs tend to have more complex engineering diagrams and things like that. RDAs can be challenging because sometimes they're submitted by homeowners who aren't familiar with the regulations, and they need some more support by staff to get something that will be approved. Second type of application we review is stormwater management permits, and we care about stormwater because it has a potential to introduce contaminants into our drinking water, causing flood damage, and the storms that we've been seeing lately with much higher, more aggressive storms have an increased capacity because of massive and rapid flow of water into our resource areas. The Commission requires permits to work for anything that can alter stormwater patterns, the flow, the volume, the quality of that water. We issue two types. Major stormwater management permit is for residential disturbance over 2,000 square feet or commercial disturbance over 1,000 square feet. Minor stormwater management permits are issued by the staff. They are for disturbance of 500 square feet up to those 1,000 or 2,000 foot thresholds. They both require a lot of work. Again, major stormwater management permits require detailed engineering calculations, hydrology reports, things like that. Minor ones generally require just sort of back of the envelope type calculation description of what's being done. So I'll finish up now. Last year we issued 20 major permits and the staff issued 15 minor. So number 3, what do we want to do? First, we're going to continue to review and issue permits for work in the town. Some of this is done in-house, some of it, because we don't have an engineer on our commission right now, goes to third-party review paid for by the applicant. We'd like to work better with planning board, ZBA, to coordinate applications and permits, because sometimes they're sequential, sometimes they're happening at the same time, but there's always different people reviewing and possibly working together to have a more streamlined peer review process would be, I think, beneficial across the board. You may have heard we're under an unfunded mandate by the EPA to reduce the amount of pollutants entering our rivers, which is the stormwater fee that people are hearing about. Engineering is doing all that. And I know I'm late, I'm sorry. Engineering is doing all that work, but our work with stormwater permits is contributing to improvements in that regard. And last two things are we would like to work have better outreach with the community about improving our environment with native plants, trying to reduce invasive species, habitat loss, damage due to flood, drought, that sort of thing, and to try and expand our stewardship efforts on conservation lands under jurisdiction of Conservation Commission. And that would be an effort, that it's a big effort, but it's something we'd really like to do. So, thank you. I'm sorry I went late.
Thank you. Planning Board Chair, Mr. Bethany. And by the way, for those that might have arrived late, the QR code up there, if you click on it with your camera, it will take you to a lot of attachments and more details from the speakers tonight. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone, and thank you all for attending. My name is John Bethany, and I'm the Planning Board Chair. I have served on the Planning Board for the past 23 years. In our recent Designing Dedham 2030 Master Plan process, the community voiced a desire for a better understanding of how our town works, how boards and committees collaborate, and they're really seeking and looking for us to do more of what we're doing here tonight. So I want to thank the Select Board for putting this together, and I'd like to point out to the public that we heard you and we're following through. Everyone, the Planning Board is comprised of 5 members, and 5 members are elected and 1 member is appointed. Our Vice Chair and longstanding member is Attorney Michael Podolsky. James O'Brien is our clerk, and we're joined by members Jessica Porter, who's here tonight, and Attorney Jim McGrail. Our associate member is Andrew Popoli. Each member serves a 5-year term, and terms are staggered with 1 seat available each year. As you heard earlier, our board is supported by an incredible planning and zoning department. Our department consists of Planning Director Jeremy Rosenberger, he's here tonight, Senior Planner Michelle Tinger, Economic Development Planner Jason Schultz, and Kelly Leahy is our office manager. Everyone, the primary role of the Planning Board is to review and consider development proposals, both residential and commercial, and assure that they meet or exceed our zoning regulations. I'd like to discuss a few recently approved projects which are currently under construction or will begin construction later in 2023. In 2022, after approximately 2 years of review, the board approved a 120-room hotel, believe it or not, at 95 Eastern Ave. That's owned and developed by the Salatin Group and their development company in Rhode Island. The as of yet unbranded hotel is slated to begin construction early this spring. As condition of approval, the developer did provide benefits which was determined by the planning board did outweigh the negative impacts that the development may potentially inflict. They did provide a local hiring preference. They're providing a Dedham resident employment program. They're improving Leechmere Road. Everyone can attest that needs to be done. They're providing $75,000 in pedestrian safety improvements to the Eastern Avenue and Providence Highway intersections, and $30,000 to the Town of Dedham Sidewalk Repair Fund. Also currently under construction are 26 single-family residential dwellings located on Louder Street, which was approved as part of a planned residential development. Now, the town meeting did approve the concept plan for the planned residential development. And what's really unique about that and beneficial to the town about that is it allows the planning board to consider projects that would cluster the number of housing units that would typically be allowed on the entire parcel anyway, closer together, and allow for significantly more open space. That development was approved by the planning board in 2021, and as a condition of that approval, the developer committed to installing pedestrian rapid flashing beacons on Route 109 at the intersection of Louder and 109. $100,000 for the Louder Street traffic study. There's been a lot of cut-through traffic on Louder, and residents were concerned about that. The developer agreed to help allay those concerns by providing funding of a traffic study, which would ultimately come up with solutions to that problem. And most importantly, a donation of 20 acres of protected open space to the town, which otherwise could have been used for a large-scale, single-family residential development, which could have met all of the regulations. Kelly's Roast Beef is coming to the Dedham Plaza. It was approved by the board in 2022 and is currently under construction. As a condition to that approval, the developer committed to signalization and pedestrian improvements at Providence Highway and commitment to being a good neighbor. A state-of-the-art mixed-use development consisting of 293 dwelling units and 20,000 square feet of non-residential space at 124 Quabish Road was approved by the planning board in 2022 at the current site where they are doing the rock crushing program there. That's the Fed Corp rock crushing site next door to Costco. The planning board looked at this project for over 18 months. A lot of concessions were made by the developer. The project evolved considerably from its initial presentation to what it looks like today. As a condition of that approval, the developer is committed to providing a local hiring preference, $50,000 for improving Wiggum Pond access, $45,000 for pedestrian crossing beacons along the Legacy Boulevard roadway, $55,000 for safe routes to schools programs, and a commitment to do their fair share for a significant future infrastructure project improving the Legacy Boulevard access from Route 1 all the way to the apartment developments at the very end of Legacy Boulevard. I did hear that the Zoning Board of Appeal was not going to be too busy this year, but we have a very busy year coming up at the Planning Board. Some upcoming projects include, as you heard, iFly. It's an international indoor skydiving company. They're planning a 7,000 square foot building with a very unique and significant skydiving platform where you will actually be skydiving within the building by air coming up and keeping you afloat. I don't know, 700, I'm not sure about the height, 50 feet in the air, but it's high. That's at 930 Providence Highway, the former Chili's restaurant, which everyone can admit that it certainly needs to be redeveloped. There's a 16-unit residential mixed-use development at 359 Washington Street. It's currently being proposed at the local developer, Hub Development. I think anybody can, everyone here who knows that site across the street from a new mixed-use development at 360, this property is absolutely slated for redevelopment and necessary to be done. There's 150 residential units proposed as part of a mixed-use horizontal development where some of the residential components will be in their own building, and the commercial components or non-residential components will be in other buildings. That is going to be proposed at 110 and 125 Sturgis Way off of Legacy Boulevard by Nordblum, who currently own the majority of that land on Sturgis. Tesla is seeking to expand their dealership at 800 Providence Highway. Ms. Porter is happy about that. There's rumors of the sale of the big one. There are rumors of the sale of the property known at 130 Haven and 213 Westfield Street in District 1, and that property totals approximately 38 acres. It's zoned SRA, which is Single Residence A District, but is eligible for other residential uses. And while a future owner or use is currently unknown, I can assure you that the board will rigorously review and vet any development proposal on that property. Beside the review and consideration of many different types of projects, both residential and commercial, the planning board does focus on other aspects of land use and zoning. The planning board is charged with the duty of holding public hearings and evaluating proposed amendments to the Dedham zoning bylaw and the town of Dedham zoning map. The planning board also proposes zoning articles and amendments to town meeting. Planning Board has submitted 3 zoning articles to our town meeting this spring. First article addresses a recently enacted MBTA Communities Act, which is a state regulation that requires municipalities like ours within the Commonwealth that have MBTA transit stations to have a zoning district that would allow a certain number of multifamily dwellings. And those dwelling units would have to be by right, or else we would lose the opportunity for state funding. So we would need to propose and create a zone which could actually accommodate 1,600 units of housing here in Dedham. So the Planning Board, as a result and after consultation and collaboration with the Select Board, in 2022, the Planning Board hired a consultant to understand the impacts of the MBTA Community Act. And after a series of meetings with the consultant, a potential zoning district centered around the Dedham Corporate Center highlighted that we'd already met 70% of the 1,600 units with the current development as it sits on the ground, and with the current development being proposed at the FedCorp site. As such, the Planning Board has put forth a new overlay zoning district that would be compliant with the MBTA Communities Act and their guidelines, and also allow Dedham to be eligible for state funding. And we've done this, which we believe, and we're going to propose at town meeting this year, that in doing so, it would not negatively impact our residential neighborhoods. So the vast majority of that zone consists of Legacy Place, Legacy Boulevard, Costco's, FedCorp, Avalon, et cetera. So there are some developable parcels in order to create the zone along Elm Street, but we don't think that would have, if they were developed, any negative impact on, on the residential neighborhoods nearby. We're also proposing a zoning article regulate the accessory use of electric vehicle charging stations. We prepare and update the master plan. I'm going to summarize. We're currently reviewing the Dedham Designing 2030 master plan that was funded by town meeting, and the town also received a grant for $75,000 from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. We initiated a Bridge Street corridor study to develop a roadmap for future growth and preservation along the Bridge Street corridor. We've, having begun in 2022, Wigan Pond Access and Recreation Plan that you heard earlier about, to develop a vision for future active and passive recreation of that underutilized asset. And in the fall of 2023, the Planning Board, in conjunction with the Planning and Zoning Department, will begin a second phase of developing a district improvement financing district for Providence Highway to improve Providence Highway. I'd like to thank the Select Board for arranging the Townwide Summit. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss things that we do, and thank everyone here for attending. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Now the school department, school committee, Melissa, and again, Dr. Kelly, thank you for the arrangements to have us into this building tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, welcome
Melissa?
to our beautiful middle school. My name's Melissa Perot. I'm the chair of the Dedham School Committee. And we're, with our 7 members on our committee, we have Victor Hebert, the vice chair, Chris Polito, Josh Donati, Kylan McCormick, Tracy White, and Mayanne Briggs, all on our committee. And just to give a context, we have 3 tasks as a school committee. One of them is to hire and evaluate a superintendent, establish policies, and to establish the budget. So those are the primary areas that we focus on. And I guess after Mr. Bethany's presentation, we also need to ask for more schools if we have these many new buildings and houses coming into our community. We've done a lot of work in the school department, particularly around strengthening the curriculum, professional development, special education, counseling services. These have all been major areas of focus for us. And I'm confident that these structures have helped guide us through the COVID experience that we all had with our kids. And the health services have been critical. You know that our Superintendent Welsh, retired in December. We are so fortunate to have had a superintendent stay with us for 9 years. That is not the norm anymore in our public schools. and that allowed us great stability. It has also allowed us to have Dr. Kelly, who worked in our district for 7 years as assistant superintendent, move into the interim role during this transition time. And I cannot thank Dr. Kelly enough for supporting our district in this time. We do have a new superintendent joining us in July 1st, and that is Nan Murphy. Nan Murphy is here with us, if you want to wave.
Nan, why don't you stand up, please? Thank you. Welcome.
We are so glad to have Ms. Murphy joining us. We had a 9-month search process assisted by NESDEC. She is joining us as the assistant superintendent for Marblehead Schools with previous experience as a classroom teacher and principal in Lowell, where her schools were recognized for transforming underperforming schools by the Commissioner of Education. She also spent some time working in the Department of Education supporting turnaround schools. So we are thrilled to have her joining us. I'm going to hand it now to Dr. Kelly to talk about the tasks ahead of us, our academic and learning goals, our workforce needs, and our facilities as we think towards the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Select Board for putting this together tonight. It's always, I love an opportunity to get up and talk about what we're doing and where we're headed as a system. It's just a great thing, so thank you.
Thank you.
So as Dr. Perot said, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on just kind of where we are with students and learning within the district and what's ahead for us. Our workforce, our teachers, our educators, everyone who supports what's going on with kids every day in the classroom, and then certainly our facilities. It's really tough when you think about every day we have just about 3,100 people walk through the doors of our 7 buildings. And I would suggest that not only are there many millions of great things going on throughout the day, but there's just an awesome experience for the kids in this town, and certainly everyone here and throughout the community continues to support those 3,100 people and doing great things every single day in those 7 buildings. So it's really hard to boil that down into what are we doing, what are our most strategic needs, and where are we headed. So in terms of student learning, I'm going to start with those 2,500 or so, just north of 2,500 kids who are currently in our 7 schools and what's happening for them, because they are obviously our primary focus and the most important people that we bring into those buildings every day. Just to highlight, in the last bunch of years, the work that the committee, the schools, and the community has done to make sure that all of our youngest learners have access to free full-day kindergarten. That is a huge accomplishment and supports learning for our kids as they move up through the pipeline. As Dr. Pro had mentioned, we've done so much work in the past 5 years around the curriculum in the district. From, again, the pre-K, ensuring that even our youngest learners have access to consistent, coherent, and strong curriculum, and then moving that all the way up through 8th grade and ensuring that kids entering the high school are having a consistent experience throughout the schools. It's been really powerful work, and everyone is benefiting from that. I would also point out to the Delta program that has been established at the high school. An awesome childcare program for staff and for the community, but also when we think about ensuring that our high schoolers are ready to move on and do whatever it is they want to do post-high school, this has been such an amazing opportunity for our high school students to engage in teaching and learning in that classroom, to learn about whether or not education and related services might be a field that they want to pursue. It's just been a great all-around experience, and the high school kids, I watch their presentations as they have to do a culminating project that talks about what they learned, and they love it. I mean, every kid who does it, it is their favorite experience. So it's just a great thing for kids. As far as needs around, I could go on forever about all the great things. As far as the needs are concerned, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on COVID. We know that COVID was a terrible thing for students and for the schools. There is the impact that is directly to the children, and we are still working to pick up where kids are and move them forward and make sure that all of those gaps are filled. There's a lot of great work happening there. The primary focus, we have a lot of children, particularly in the earlier grades, who missed really key early learning, particularly in literacy and numeracy. Obviously, all subjects and content areas are very important, but a lot of our work has focused certainly on intervention and identifying the needs and providing support throughout the day. But we're really turning our attention and coming to understand that when we think about remedying these learning gaps that have been created via COVID, but also when we think moving forward strategically, we need more time beyond the school day with our children. And we've been working strategically as a district to bring to life a before and after school care program that can really extend the day for our students. And we want to make sure that all kids in Dedham have access to really robust, high quality before and after school programming. And by bringing that in-house, we can also start to look at what are the opportunities for enrichment? What are the opportunities for intervention for kids during that time? And then, building on that kind of Delta concept, how do we bring in an AP Spanish student from the high school who's really excelling, wants to come and teach a Spanish class for our younger students in the district? How do we start to think about bringing the kids who are doing TV programming, commercials, et cetera, all of these programs at the high school, how do we get kids engaged, particularly at the high school level, in exploring career opportunities, but also serving as leaders and mentors for our younger students? So there's a lot of great opportunity there. Just real quick, the secondary impact of COVID, we had done so much work prior to the onset of the pandemic around, like I said, curriculum, restructuring our human resources to ensure that our teachers have proper support in terms of coaching, curriculum coordination, special education, et cetera. And so much of that just got derailed. So we're really now in the process of getting that work back online, but also rethinking that work, because what we did in 2016, 17, and 18 worked then. Things are very different now. So it's also a matter of considering how do we continue our work in this new environment. Okay, good. All right. I thought it said 48 minutes. As far as the workforce is concerned, these are the other 600 or so people who come into our buildings every day to serve students. About 80% of those folks work directly with kids every single day. Those 80% are represented by 8 different bargaining units. So we are always in the process of working with our employees to ensure that we understand what their needs are, and that we're looking at their collective bargaining agreements to make sure that they are structured in a way that meets their needs. We have amazing, as you all know, we have amazing teachers, we have amazing educators, we have amazing food service, maintenance, facility, all the folks who make sure that the school works for our educators and for our kids, and we're grateful for them always. Collective bargaining is a big responsibility of ours and of the committees, and we spend a lot of time on that because it's important to us. So that is, we are currently negotiating the Unit A contract with our educators, and then following that we will have paraprofessionals, Unit B, and the other 5 units who are not settled. We have 2 of the 8 settled, 6 to go. So that will be a big focus of the work moving forward. The other complication we have with the workforce right now, our teaching workforce is fairly stable. They come here, they stay. It's a great place to work and learn. I always use that statement. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to work and learn. Our employees, paraprofessionals, food service, custodians, traffic directors, folks in that part of the support network for our kids, we are finding it critically challenging to find and retain these folks. We've got shortages in paraprofessionals throughout the district. Shortages, again, in food service, just all over the place. And that is not, it's really complicated. Part of this is thinking about, and we have an obligation to think about, are we competitive with local communities? Lots of these employees will go to other communities who have more, better benefits or better compensation, whatever that is. So we're looking at the compensation for these folks. But it's also a matter of, thinking about their work, and how do we think about moving forward into the future, looking at how their work is structured and how we work with them to really create an environment that is just an awesome place to work. So there's a lot of work to do there, and that certainly, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be critically important, because I don't see this labor issue getting any simpler as we move forward. So that is a big area of focus for us over the next bunch of years. And finally, getting to facilities. Okay, I'm doing all right. The town has made tremendous investment into our school facilities. We have 7 occupied buildings currently. 3 of them have been replaced in the last 20 years, and we're now in the process of looking at our 3 oldest buildings, Oakdale, Green Lodge, and Riverdale, and looking at, through the feasibility process, what is the best solution to put kids into a modern facility in a way that ensures they get access to and continue to have access to a great education, but also that it's done in a way that is fiscally smart for the town, but also fiscally smart for the town in the long run. Because we also have an aging high school, and through this process, we will, we have the opportunity to look at the consolidation of schools or to look at a single school. But there are other facilities that are going to need work. The high school particularly is one that, as I see in the next 5 to 15 years is going to need serious investment if it is going to continue to be a 21st century learning space well into the future for our high school students. It is I believe it was opened in 1959 at this point, which is not incredibly old when you think about a 1902 or a 1920 opening for some of our buildings. But the mechanical systems, the envelope are starting to show their age and need support and potentially replacement. And these are, in this, again, the construction costs, materials costs, you all know this, they're through the roof. So we're looking at 30 to 40% increases in projects that would have been 30 to 40% less not so long ago. So the facilities horizon is immediately looking at this Oakdale, Green Lodge, Riverdale through the feasibility study and getting us to a space where hopefully we can get a new building under construction in the March 2025 vicinity, but then beyond that, looking at the remaining facilities, particularly the high school. So I think that's good enough. Okay, I went a little long. I took somebody else's time. I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Park and Rec's John Briggs, and then will be Kevin Doyle from the Director of Assessing, School Building Rehab, Library Trustees, Open Space, Human Rights. John?
Sure, I got to follow a couple doctors, huh? Thanks, Jim. So I'm John Briggs with Parks and Rec, and thank you for doing this. Thank you for having this. Something I think we should do more, obviously, maybe every year, hopefully. Parks and Recreation, if anyone doesn't know, there's 5 commissioners. We're elected commissioners. We have a director, Mr. Stanley up there in the booth, who's multifaceted and running lights and sound tonight, and a staff. And with that, we're responsible for neighborhood parks, community parks, our facilities, the Dolan Center, the swimming pool, and beyond that, programming, activities, keeping our residents on the move. We want programs for everybody. We want everyone to be active. And that's our ultimate goal. So with that, I'd like to just briefly touch on, where we are now as it pertains to meeting the community needs, and then just quickly our vision to, where we should be as a town of our population and with our demographic. There's a little disparity that we've seen. And so Parks and Recreation Department, we've made significant strides in recovering from the pandemic years. One thing for sure with the pandemic, I think we can all agree, what we all learned was that don't put us in a box, right? We want to be outside. We need nature, we need to be outside, and we need to be active. So that's helped us out with Parks and Rec, because now we're seeing a lot of needs, and we're getting back to and beyond actually where we were pre-pandemic. So I'm happy to report that this year to date, program revenue has far exceeded our best pre-pandemic years. And therefore, we're forecasting our best year ever. To put that into perspective, as a national standard, program revenue typically comprises about 20% of an operating budget. Our department right now is nearing 50%. So that's a big number right there. So again, you can see the need for programming, and we still have need for a lot more programming, and that revenue number is about $500,000 that we're anticipating this year with our programs. So additionally, with the planned relocation of the rec center to the Capon School, if you're not aware, the Dolan Center is in some need of repair. So we're going to be going to the Capon Center, whether it's temporary or permanent. I think those of us on the commission hope it's permanent. It's a great location where it is in town, very accessible. The Dolan Center is kind of hard to get to for a lot of people in town, it being across town. But that being said, that land over there we're using, and we don't intend to ever give up. It's a gem, if you will. So again, that Capon School, we'd have a full-size gym available to us, and we'd be able to immediately expand our programming opportunities with that gym. So, however, Don't confuse our program solvency with fiscal fortitude, okay? Through benchmarking we've done on both a local and national level, parks and recreation budget for a town our size should be somewhere over $2 million. And we're operating on about a $920,000 budget currently, is what we're afforded by the town. So programs are saving us right now, but that's not sustainable because of maintenance. It's really not sustainable. So again, I don't want to, it's great to report that, and you know, people are supporting our programs, and we're putting new programs on every day, and I'll cover some of those. And it is parks and recreation, right? So that's the recreation side, if you will. On the parks side of the department, we continue to advocate for more funding for our fields. No mystery, maintaining athletic fields, crucial for safety, right, for the athletes of all ages. To help promote positive sports culture, we need good fields, right? Safety and all of that. So regular upkeep of the fields prevents accidents, injuries. However, maintenance is costly. So it requires ongoing efforts, mowing, fertilizing, irrigation, right, all those things. That being said, to reference back to some of our benchmarking, a town of our size would typically spend $9,000 an acre on maintenance a year. And our budget allows us $3,000 an acre. So there's a bit of disparity there. So we will be asking to increase our maintenance budget this year. We'll be asking for a $75,000 increase to the maintenance budget for fiscal year '24. Hopefully that goes forward. It's something we need to do. We have a field now in disrepair that's going to be closed until June out at Rustcraft. We can't rest that field. We don't have enough fields, which is something else I'd like to get to. And I think it's been mentioned here now about the school fields. And I just want to touch on that briefly. So also on the park side of the department, we're striving to make our open spaces more user-friendly to the entire community. To that end, we currently have funding in our budget as well as grant monies for shade structures. So you'll see shade structures going up, first at Gonzales and then at other parks to be determined as we go. So that's kind of nice to have that funding already in place and that grant money already in place. We've also invested in more picnic tables and benches. Sounds simple, but really the park experience, right? You want to go to a park and whatever you want to be able to experience it the way you want to experience it. So if you're not kicking a soccer ball around, if you're not throwing a football around, if you want to have a picnic with your family, we want to offer that, right? We want you to be able to sit in the shade, enjoy it, have a picnic, do what you want. So the complete experience for all ages. As well, we're placing bike racks in various locations throughout town. That funding is already there in place, and we'll be putting bike racks around. So because of the success of our kayak and canoe storage racks, which if you haven't been down to the Dolan Center and gotten on the river, please do. But we've added more racks because we've had a waiting list for people that want to put their kayaks and canoes down there. So we've added more racks already, and they're already built and they're ready to go for spring this year. Further highlights, we have pickleball starting March 5th. So I know for those of you who know me, it's been something I've pushed and my fellow commissioner up there. We're going to make it happen, which is nice. So Sunday nights at the Avery. Plan on us asking for monies for outside courts in the near future, right? I mean, that's where this is going. We're going to drum up the business, get everyone all excited about it, and then we're going to need to have some outside courts. So this summer, you'll see some self-service kayak rentals at the Dolan Center. This is a whole new thing. And again, if you don't have a kayak or whatever, you'll be able to go online, insert credit card here, push button on that machine, open it up, and pull out a kayak and go. Put it back when you're done, shut the door. Self-service. So I don't think it can get easier than that. So again, we're just really trying to think outside the box a little bit, and hopefully that takes up. So get to the tough part, I guess now. We've known for multiple years now that we do not have enough field space in town for all of our user groups. Not a mystery. A couple years ago, pre-pandemic, We went to town meeting and we asked for funding to move forward with the Stryer property for that development, which our master plan, that would have taken care of a lot of needs, and we were kind of banking on that, and it didn't happen. So one thing for sure, we will be coming before town meeting again in the fall, not this coming one, but in the fall, this fall, and we will be asking for funding to start that engineering process again. If we need to size it down to get it passed, whatever it might be, certainly this will be an open forum for the entire community, and we will listen to what everyone says and what the needs are, and we'll go forward from there. And hopefully we can get it done this time. I mean, the idea is to make a destination park, right, that fits the needs of everybody. And that's what we had on the table last time. Maybe it was a little too much. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe now the timing is right. So there are a lot of needs. We need basketball courts. We need tennis courts. You know, we need baseball fields too. But there's a lot of focus on turf fields and synthetic fields. And with a synthetic field, we can get bang for the buck. And, you know, we have one now, and we just don't have enough hours in the day for bodies on it. So, again, moving forward, that will be an ask, and, you know, there is a cost to that. So I understand Dr. Tian tightening the belt, but we're going to ask you to loosen it up a little bit as we move forward, because we want you all to be outside and be active. Again, we have a practice field at the Rustcraft. That practice field currently under repair, not anticipated back in action until June. As well, the life expectancy of the synthetic field at Gonzales, roughly 10 years. We're a few years down the road with that. So, you know, in a short couple of years, we're going to be asking for money to redo that field. So 10, 12 years is typically expected for a soccer field. Our softball field up at the Dolan Center, that's been sitting there that long, and we don't have any issues because it doesn't get that intensive a use, if you will. I brought up the school fields. There's been a lot brought up about that. We work with the schools. We have a memorandum of understanding for the properties. One thing for sure, we can't throw any real money collectively or individually at those fields until your study's done and you know where that new school is going to go. I believe we were told sometime in June we should maybe have an idea of what that might be, and then we can collectively decide, hey, you know, where do we want to better one of these school fields and go on from there. Then we can have a plan in place and work together and get that done.
John, you have to wrap up, please.
So to sum it up, Parks and Recreation, we've been working on a shoestring budget for the past decade, I'll say, as probably everyone in here has. Every year we're asked to trim our budget, and everyone does. And every year we do trim our budget. Look, we want to do what's best for the community, right? But to that end, again, I will leave you with one more benchmark if I could. National Recreation and Parks Association data shows typical operating expenditures per capita, $100 a year per capita, per person. In Dedham, we're at $35. That's a big disparity. And I know there's differences here in this benchmarking, but this is really close. So all I'm asking is that moving forward, this meeting, this summit, is a way to help us all kind of better understand what our challenges are, what our needs are as a community, and we can all work together and move forward. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Kevin.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I know we're kind of well into the night, so I'll try to not completely bore you and overextend my time, but I'm sure I'll do both. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Kevin Doyle. I'm the current Director of Assessments here in Dedham. I've been with the Assessing Office for about 10 years now. Back in 2013, I was elected to the board, where I served for 2 years before being hired as the Assistant Director. Spent about 6-7 years as the Assistant Director before becoming the Director now for almost 2 years. My current staff consists of 2 assessing specialists, Sue Munchback and Colleen McGordy. They're the front lines of my office and a huge part of success and the reason that the office is run so well and so well respected not only by both taxpayers but the coworkers and always receiving high praise for their service. Next is our data collector, Derek Sergi. He's often out on the road with my Assistant Director, Paul D'Olimpio. Paul was actually the previous data collector here in Dedham for almost 10 years. Both Paul and Derek are often helping taxpayers in the office, giving Sue and Colleen, lending a hand with them. When they're not, they're out in the road performing various types of inspections. Let's see. I couldn't ask for a better staff to work with. They're so great with the taxpayers. Really turned the office around the last 10 years. They're very upbeat, always willing to go the extra mile and do what it takes. We also have a 3-member board of assessors who oversee the department as well as the annual valuation of real estate and personal property for taxation purposes within the town of Dedham. Current board consists of the chair, Richard Schoenfeld, who's here tonight, the vice chair, Mike Polito, who is also here tonight, and the third board member position is currently vacant. It's on the ballot for a 1-year term on the upcoming election. Sure, most of you heard me say this over and over and over again, but our office does not raise or lower taxes. Rather, our primary function is to find the full and fair cash market value on real estate and personal property to make sure that everybody pays their fair share of taxes. All values are approved every year by the Department of Revenue and required to have a full valuation and certification done every 5 years. These values are based on market value of your property and derived by an in-depth review of sales and market analysis every single year. The tax rate is the basis for the town budget, which is needed to provide services such as the schools, roads, fire, law enforcement, etc. These tax rates are determined based off the valuations that we place on these properties to provide the funds to pay for these services. This year, the town budget was just under $137 million, which means that's the amount that is needed to operate and run the entire town. Of that $137 million, about $35 million comes from local services and other, local receipts and other revenue sources, which leaves roughly 75%, or roughly $102 million of the budget to be raised through property taxes. This is what's called the property tax levy. Currently, there are about 10,000 properties here in Dedham, both real estate and personal property. Just under 600 of those are exempt from real estate and personal property taxes. Residential properties make up about 88% of the remaining 9,400 taxable properties in Dedham. About 750 properties are personal property. So it's kind of one of the biggest misconceptions here in Dedham is the amount of commercial real estate, because most of it is visible and it's along the Route 1 corridor. So when you break it down, there's only 280 commercial properties in Dedham and only 57 industrial. So commercial makes up about 3%, less than 1% is industrial. So it's only about 4% for commercial and industrial. And that actually also includes vacant land as well. So you can see it's really not a lot, and it is primarily residential here in Dedham. Of those 9,400 taxable properties, the total valuation of all properties, both real estate and personal, comes to about $6.7 billion in valuation. So of that, the residential values comes to about $5.6 billion. And from that, the tax rate is derived and produces that remaining $102 million that's needed to operate the town. Average single family in Dedham this year was just over $668,000. It's a significant increase. It's $70,000 over assessment from last year, which was $597,000. It's a 12% increase. While the residential tax rate decreased from $1,335 last year to $1,284 this year, the average single-family tax bill went up just over $600. The average single-family tax bill now is $8,580. Last year was about $7,980. These are significant increases, but it's due to the high level of demand and services that we provide within the town of Dedham. And as Dr. Tian had mentioned, we are actually 13th in comparison in Norfolk County. While these increases have been significantly higher in recent years, the assessing office has done a tremendous job explaining to the taxpayers and breaking down the valuation process in layman's terms to the average taxpayer, so that they can understand how their properties are being valued and how is it used to calculate their property taxes and how it indirectly relates to the town budget and the overall property tax levy. Through the hard work of the assessor's office in providing such a high level of communication and customer service, the assessing office actually received less than 60 abatement applications this year. It's an incredible number. When I started 10 years ago, it was well in excess of 200 abatement applications. So it's not to say that we weren't bombarded with emails and phone calls and people at the counter, trying to figure out what's going on. But they just did a great job with transparency and explaining the entire process and how it kind of works between the town budget and your own personal property taxes. On top of determining the values for all the properties in town, our office works in conjunction with the Treasurer and Collector's Office in assisting the production of the quarterly tax bill for those 9,400 taxable parcels in Dedham, along with the 25,000 excise tax bills. The assessing office also reviews and processes the property tax exemptions, such as the widows, the veterans, elderly, blind. Collectively, we process over 200 exemptions, which gives about a relief of $400,000 to qualifying taxpayers under those state guidelines. We work hand in hand with both the Veteran Service Office and the Council on Aging to oversee the Veterans and Senior Tax Work-Off programs, as well as the new Tax Aid Committee and Tax Aid Fund that was established to provide tax assistance for the elderly and disabled Dedham residents to help defray the property taxes. The Veterans and Senior Tax Work-Off programs assisted about 20 residents, and the Tax Aid Fund assisted 34 residents. One major accomplishment that I'm most proud of is where I worked in conjunction with Joe Hamilton, the Veteran Service agent here. We discovered 17 Dedham residents that qualified under 22E, which is a veteran's exemption. They receive roughly $2,000 annually in property tax relief. But the state, we only got reimbursed about $825. We discovered that these 17 residents now qualify under a new program under 22D, which actually gives them full property tax exemption. So it gives them full relief of their property taxes. And it's, for those that qualify, it's surviving spouses of military personnel who have died as a result of an injury or illness contracted during active duty service. But through this clause, as I mentioned, they're now receiving full relief of the real estate property taxes, and the town is actually receiving full reimbursement from the state dollar for dollar, and in turn save tens of thousands of dollars. The assessing office also works with the collector's office on a daily basis, the town accountant, finance director. We work with the building department to stay up to date on our building permits, to perform inspections and keep our records up to date and as accurate as possible. We work with the GIS department to make sure their maps and boundary lines and addresses are up to date on all properties within the town of Dedham. We work with several other departments such as engineering and conservation to produce a butters list as requested, DPW to assist locating addresses and help with distribution lists, town clerk's office to help identify and confirm addresses of registered voters. So as you can see, the assessing office is an integral part of town hall. We work a lot with the public, well, within our own office and other departments. So I'm very fortunate to work with such a great group of people, especially within the assessing office. So with that said, if you guys are still awake and listening, I appreciate it, and I thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kevin. And Amanda, we should probably put Kevin's remarks and stuff at the top of the list of when somebody clicks on that code, because we're getting questions about taxes and process, and I think Kevin just did an excellent job of explaining of what it's all about, especially getting into the season for finance and warrant. John?
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Jim, and the select board members for this event. This summit has been a fantastic educational experience. I know I've learned quite a lot tonight. My name is John Tachi. I'm the chair of the School Building Rehabilitation Committee. Quite simply, the SBRC is responsible for the oversight of school construction and rehabilitation projects in Dedham. We consist of 7 members by bylaw, 1 appointee from the select board, Kevin Coughlin. We have 2 members of the school committee, Victor A. Bear and Mayhem McDonald-Briggs. We have John Heffernan from FinCom, and we have 3 at-large members, myself, Vice Chair Steve Billifer, and Phil Gonzalez, appointed by the town moderator. We've, over the past 20 years, the SBRC has overseen the construction of 3 new schools in Dedham. The middle school in 2007, the Avery School a few years later, and the ECEC, which just opened up in 2019. So most recently, if we look at what we've done over the past few years, we closed out the books on the ECEC project. We're very proud that that project was completed on time, opened its doors in February of 2019, and almost $2 million under budget. The project was slated at about $30.5 million, and it came in at $29.5 million, with the state, the Commonwealth, contributing $10.5 million towards the project. Now, for the fourth time in 20 years, we've been invited by the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and this time Treasurer Goldberg, into the school funding process. And it's the Oakdale School that got us into the process, the condition of the Oakdale School. And you've heard a little bit about that, our school conditions and physical plant from Dr. Kelly earlier tonight. Oakdale School is, as many of you know, it's a beautiful building, but it's 120 years old, the main structure. The annex is over 70 years old. We've also got two other schools that are elementary schools that are in need of replacement, and the master plan actually calls for their substantial rehabilitation or replacement. Riverdale is celebrating its 100th birthday this year, and the Green Lodge School is 70 years old as well. And the Oakdale Annex is 70 years old, too. So for the fourth time, we've been invited into the process by the state, and it means a substantial amount of state funding for us for this project. And this project could be anywhere between $60 and $90 million. That's what it's budgeted for. I know 4 schools may seem like a very aggressive building schedule for a town the size of Dedham. But I think we've got to bear in mind that from 1959, as Dr. Kelly indicated, when Dedham High School was built, there was no standalone school built in Dedham until 2007. And from 1975 until 2007, this town engaged in no substantial rehabilitation projects or new school construction for that 30-year period, from 1975 expansion of the high school until 2007. So what we're left with are aging schools that are badly in need of rehabilitation. I'm not going to say too much more about the Oakdale project. We have a terrific website. If you Google Oakdale Construction Project, you'll get on our website and you'll see videos, charts, graphs, all kinds of information about this project. 40 frequently asked questions and answers. But the Commonwealth invited us into the process in early 2021. Town meeting appropriated $1 million for us to conduct a feasibility study. That's the stage we're in right now. So for the past 6 to 8 months, we have been analyzing sites throughout town that may be proper for a school, that may fit a new elementary school. We chose Vertex as our project manager in the spring through a competitive bidding process. Vertex is also the project manager on the new public safety building. So they know Dedham, they know how to build a building on time and under budget, and they've got a great experienced crew. In this fall, we picked Jonathan Levy Architects as our project designer, a very experienced architectural firm. They've built a number of fantastic schools throughout Massachusetts. So right now we're in the process of narrowing down site considerations. We've narrowed our decision to 5 potential sites, the Oakdale, Green Lodge, and Riverdale schools, as well as the Capon property off Sprague and the Stryer property as well, all under consideration. Test fittings have been done, renderings for possible schools, whether they're large enough. And over the next few weeks, we will be narrowing down those choices as well. And ultimately, in March, the end of March, we need to submit to the MSBA a narrowed down plan for what we're looking at, sort of just an update to them of where we are in the process. But by June, July of this year, we're going to have to submit to the MSBA our preferred choice. So we're going to have to make a decision. We have meetings at least every 2 weeks. We just have one Monday night. They're usually Monday evenings. They're by Zoom and in person. We have several other meetings as well, and we're planning a community meeting in March let's see, I think the last Saturday in March we're looking at, the 24th, 25th, whatever that date is. And hopefully we'll see you all there, and there's going to be a lot more information on that. We're still defining the contours of that. But thank you all for your attention, and thank you all for the support you've shown our schools through the years.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jim.
So Board of Trustees, I'm not sure who is Annette, Amber?
Thank you all for being here tonight. So when we were told that we couldn't do PowerPoint, we thought what better way to talk about the library than to have a poster board with the numbers that we want to highlight. So I'm Amber Maroney, the library director, and I'm here with Annette Raffel, a member of the Board of Library Trustees. All the stats that we're going to review tonight are available on our website as well as via the QR code. So the first number that you see is 218,241, which is the total circulation in 2022. Digital and physical circulation at the library has increased 25% from 2021. On to the next. 9 is, Dedham is just one of 9 Minuteman libraries to have FY22 be their highest year in terms of circulation. The Minuteman Library Network consists of about 45 different libraries, so this is a pretty big accomplishment for us. Circulation is at an all-time high, and in 2022, the library circulated about 163,000 physical items from the library. Outside of traditional library material, the library has video games, board games, laptops, Wi-Fi hotspots, and small appliances and tools available for checkout. 5.9% is the increase in digital content usage at the library. So digital circulation, which includes ebooks, digital audiobooks, magazines, videos. We saw a dramatic increase while the library was closed during the pandemic, and we were expecting that number to drop once we reopened our buildings, but instead, digital circulation has continued to increase, and in 2022, nearly 55,000 digital items circulated from the library, digitally. 104 is the number of hours that the library is open to the public. The main library is open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 8 p.m. and Fridays and Saturdays from 9 to 5. The Endicott branch is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 5, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 8, and Sundays from 10 to 2. The next number is 67,229, which is the number of visitors that the library, what's that? Oh, sorry. I don't know what I said. It's the number of visitors that the library saw in 2022. So this is actually the first year that we've had accurate door counters, so we'll be able to track this number going forward. 184% is the increase in new library cards that we issued in 2022. We've been working with the schools and senior facilities in town to help increase this number and provide library access to more residents. 20%. The number of Dedham residents that have used their cards since January of 2022. In 2021, only 16% of Dedham residents use their library cards. That number has increased to 20% in 2022, and our goal is to increase it to 25% by the end of 2023. 734 is the number of discounted museum passes that were checked out in 2022. With your library card, you can check out, you can access discounted passes to 18-ish museums and attractions in the local area, including Museum of Science, Aquarium, Zoo, all available with your library card. 1888 is the year that the main library was built. It was expanded in the 1950s, and the Endicott branch was added in the 1970s. The main library is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, town-owned buildings, and while it's a beautiful historic building, there are physical limitations that prevent it from being accessible. Improvements continue to be made, but the library is in the beginning stages of discussing the future of its buildings. 8 is the values that are in the library's new value statement, and those values include inclusion and access, intellectual freedom, lifelong learning, innovation, respect, integrity, and excellence. And the last number we have is 5, which are the goals that are outlined in the most recent strategic plan. The 5 goals include addressing the physical infrastructure of the library, establishing a marketing and communication plan to increase usage, increasing community partnerships, creating a fundraising plan to support major library initiatives, and enhancing professional development and training for the library staff and the board. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Annette.
I feel honored to be in the company of so many volunteers that care so deeply about this community. I'm one of 5 trustees, and our job is to support the library to first increase the number of resources and programs that are responsive to Dedham's needs. Second, to codify best practices for libraries in a world that embraces technology while appreciating physical materials and books. 3 is to decrease the impediments to community satisfaction and accessibility. 4 is to steward effective and efficient use of our budgeted income. 5 is to celebrate the hard work of an exceptional staff and administration. 6 is to thoughtfully engage in constructive conversation around constituent questions and suggestions. 7 is to ensure that the library is perceived as being useful, a welcoming resource to all Dedham residents, regardless of age, address, or background. And the 8th is to do the really hard work that now comes now that we've completed our strategic plan. Amber?
Thank you. So the Dedham Public Library is one of the larger town departments in terms of staffing as well as budget, but we're also one of the departments that has the greatest reach across the community. We offer programs and services to all ages, for all ages, including toddler sensory times, elementary science programs, teen book groups, and a monthly memory care cafe program. The library is also operating out of the oldest and perhaps one of the smallest town buildings. We recently evaluated the layout at the main library and rearranged it so that we have more computers that are accessible on the main level, programming space that's also accessible, and a dedicated teen area. Unfortunately, it's in the basement. The Endicott branch is fully accessible and it has a wonderful outdoor area, but the size of that building limits the number of programs that we can do at a time and also the size of the programs. In the coming year or so, the library is planning on conducting community surveys to get a better understanding of what the community needs are in terms of library space. As mentioned earlier, our circulation numbers are at an all-time high, and we acknowledge that the services provided by the library need to adapt and continue to change and evolve as the needs of the community change and evolve. That being said, the library will expand our outreach and work closer with local schools and town departments and organizations to further increase utilization. The library currently offers monthly watercolor classes and book group at the Senior Center, and this should be expanding to a technology program that at the Senior Center that allows the seniors to see what kind of resources we have that they can access from home. In time, the newly hired archivist will be working with the town clerk to ensure Dedham's historic documents are preserved, and will also be able to highlight some of the lesser known stories and people in Dedham's history. Some upcoming programs that I just want to highlight since we have the spotlight. We have quite a few sports-related programs coming up in March and April. We have a roller derby demo next Tuesday, March 7th at the main library, and representatives from Team Hoyt, the marathon running team, will be at the library on March 11th. April kicks off Dedham Reads, which is a month and a half long program that brings people together through reading and discussion of a common book. The theme for this year's Dedham Reads is A Symphony of Stories, so we're focusing on music. We're going to offer book groups that highlight the selected books and offer programs related to the themes, and we're working on finalizing details on performances with the Dedham School of Music and the band gig. And then on a final note, and this is one that I think some of our staff members are pretty excited about, tomorrow actually starts our March Minute Madness reading competition, which is we're competing against other Massachusetts libraries in a reading challenge. So I'm encouraging and asking you all to join. You can join by visiting our website and clicking join. discovered how competitive we all are at the library, so any help is appreciated. So all the information that I just discussed, as well as information for our programs, can be found at our website, dedhamlibrary.com. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Annette, and thanks, Amber. Bob? So we have Open Space Committee, Bob Laporto, and then Human Rights. Bob?
Good evening. I went to print my notes today, but then I worked from home, so I couldn't print them. I brought my computer, and I'm now currently locked out of my computer. So I'm now on my cell phone at 20% power, so I'm going to be quick. I'm Bob Laporto, the chair of the Open Space Committee. The Open Space and Recreation Committee typically meets on the first Monday or Tuesday of the month. Town meeting approved the creation of Open Space Committee in 2004. Open Space Committee conducts continuous review and oversight of the open space plan for the town and serves as an advisory role to the Select Board. Additional duties include keeping the town current with state requirements for open space and recreation plans and with opportunities and eligibility for state funding via grants. Reviewing and revising a 5-year action plan, and increasing public awareness and support through outreach in education and promotion. Open Space Committee has 7 members. They have 3-year terms, 2 at-large selected by the Select Board, an engineer appointed by the Select Board, and designee from the Select Board, the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, and Park and Recreations. I requested time to speak tonight really to talk about the Open Space and Recreation Plan, which many people in the town hold this plan as the gold standard of master plans. The complete plan is available on the town website and on the Summit event page and through the QR code. This 200-plus page document allows the town of Dedham to apply for and receive many state and federal grants that require a town to have an approved open space and recreation plan. The master plan was approved and finalized in December of 2019, and this wonderful resource outlines inventory of land, vegetation and wildlife, population growth and development patterns, the community's vision, analysis of needs, and a 5-year action plan. It's the action plan that I would like to focus on for the remainder of my time. It's actually on page 180 of the open space plan, and it extends for 14 pages, listing out specific action items for each department, board, and committee in town in which they should be working towards completing during their meetings. When the Open Space Committee was putting together this master plan, draft versions were shared with every department, board, committee in Dedham for their feedback on the document, including the 5-year action plan. There are action items assigned to every board in attendance here tonight that town staff and board members should be working towards to achieve. And I wanted to put a focus back on that plan by all of the boards, as this is a wonderful plan in which we should all be working towards. One of the bigger issues that we've run into with completing the action items within the master plan for open space is that the plan was approved. When the plan was approved, the environmental department was still around in town, but now it's been eliminated and leaving some gaping holes within our town's everyday open space needs, never mind the action items on the master plan. That environmental department was assigned about 1/3 of the action items on the plan. How am I doing? Oh, I'm doing pretty good. All right.
You don't have to use it all.
Well, I'm not going to use it all. Believe me, I'm not going to use it all. I'm almost done.
I can see your phone and it's still bright, so
it is.
We got like an 15%.
We're at 19.
19,
right.
Good.
There are times when, oh, sorry, that's all right. There are times when something happens in our town open spaces and no one knows which department is supposed to take care of that issue because the environmental department used to take care of said items. One more consideration is that open space plan needs to be updated every 5 years, and the deadline is looming. Funds have to be allocated to update the plan in the town's FY25 budget. I implore you all at your next community and department meetings to please look over our committees and departments' action items listed within the wonderful master plan, so that we're all working towards a goal of improving Dedham's open spaces. Going forward, Open Space Committee is working on a town-wide, user-friendly, interactive map that lists out all of the town's open space and recreation resources and amenities. In addition, working towards applying for grants to complete master plan action items and working with the Wigan Pond Route 1 corridor committees, and also coming up on Earth Day in April, or the Earth Day week, is a one-day town-wide cleanup, which will be a part of running once again this year. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks, Bob, for reaching out and asking to be on. And just also want to recognize, so when we're talking about open space, Stephanie did an amazing job on the open space committee, and just want to acknowledge her work, and what Bob has mentioned is really something that we need to make sure that we have follow-up from the departments. So next is Joe Borsellino and Chris Kelly, or is it going to be Chris?
Chris.
Oh, Chris first.
So we came right up because I know we all want to go home. I'm Chris Kelly. I'm the Vice Chair of the Dedham Human Rights Commission, and I just wanted to remind you all a little bit about how we came to be. The HRC was founded in 2017 following a vote at town meeting. We're comprised of 13 members. There are 7 of us, 6 adults and 1 student, who are town residents who apply to the select board, are interviewed and appointed. The remaining 6 are appointed by various town entities, the school committee, the Commission on Disabilities, the Housing Commission, the Youth Commission, the Council on Aging, and the Chief of Police. At our first meeting in 2018, we developed a mission statement. It's a little long, so I'll just read part of it. If you want to read the rest, you can check out our website, which Amanda Smith developed for us, so thank you, Amanda. The mission statement begins, "The Human Rights Commission ensures that residents of the town enjoy equal opportunity to participate in and enjoy life in the town, regardless of their race, color, ancestry, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, religion, marital, family, or military status, socioeconomic status, ex-offender status, or disability." So as you can see, we're a commission that is working for all of us. I think that covered just about everybody. The work that we do in town with no budget and with no direct authority. So we do this work with the help of many of you, the select board, the town manager's office, the schools, the library, the police, and volunteers of all kinds, as well as a lot of businesses and institutions in town that have supported us. Financially, we've been supported by the Dedham Cultural Council and several of our community banks. One of the things, I'm going to just outline a few of the events that we do every year, but one of the things that we would love to see in this town would be a leadership, sort of all of our boards and commissions, including our own, that are more representative of the diversity in the town. So one thing we would ask is if people are watching on TV and would like to be involved, if you don't see yourself up here, you can email us. We're at dedhamhrc@gmail.com, and we'll help to point you in the right direction. So anyway, some of the events that we do in town, which are designed basically to support the idea that in a diverse community, everybody feels welcome, that everybody feels like they're a part of this community, and that everybody feels that they can thrive here. So the events that we have developed and that we put together with the help of the people I mentioned earlier are the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Celebration at the middle school. We did our 6th annual this past January. Coming in June, we'll do our 3rd annual LGBTQ+ Pride flag raising celebration at Town Hall. And in August, we'll do our 2nd annual Cultural Festival and Community Picnic And that's an event that came about through another initiative of ours, which was Courageous Conversations, which was an event that was put together by the HRC and in large part by our chair, Joe Borsellino, following the murder of George Floyd, to bring together town leadership and town residents to talk about racism in our community, both how it's experienced and how it's expressed, whether intentionally or not intentionally, and to find ways to sort of support one another and to bring us together as a community. And so that cultural festival is a chance for everyone to get together and celebrate each other's culture and heritage. And we hope that you'll all join us, if you didn't make it last summer, to this summer's event. And now Joe will bring it home.
Okay, thanks. Good to see everybody here, and nice to be talking about this 5 years after the fact. I would add to what Chris has said about the events that have been developed through the Human Rights Commission. People should know that there are hundreds of people that come to all of these events. They don't just draw a few stragglers or a few interested bystanders. They are well attended. And at these events, we see tears, we see laughter, we see hope, we see all the things that we strive for. And we see everybody coming with a common purpose, embracing one another and showing the best selves that we have at these events. And many of you have attended them, your children have attended them, have benefited from them. And it's quite an extraordinary happening that has exceeded even the expectations that we had at the Human Rights Commission. The cultural celebration that we launched last year after Courageous Conversation was because everybody in Dedham said this is what we want. And in our very first event, it drew over 450 people. These are all things that can only get better and only can build with time. What Chris was alluding to, and with the common purpose, we have been able to bleed that into all aspects of our town life. It's not just the events that we do. The Human Rights Commission has published journal-worthy publications on a variety of issues that affect all of our lives in the human rights community. I'll just name a few of them. They're all published on the website. Amanda has made those available. We have covered Gay Pride Month, affordable housing, human trafficking, immigration in the United States from the 20th century to the present, mental health awareness, suicide prevention, the right to vote, history of black soldiers in the U.S. military, COVID-19 and human rights, equity, inclusion, and race in the criminal justice system. In addition to our publications, we do a monthly television program widely known as I Am Dedham. And what we do is we look around the community to find a voice for everybody. And we have had speakers, Joe Hamilton from Veterans Affairs, right in the front row, John Tachi from the Disability Commission. We've had speakers who have been disabled themselves, people who have mental, physical disabilities that have speak and get to themselves in a way that they can be talked to and seen and communicate with the rest of the community. We've had same-sex marriage couples speak, students of color from Nobles and from the Dedham Public Schools. We've covered residential segregation. We've covered police issues. We've had female representatives and hires of the fire department and the police department inspire young women in our town. We have had people speak from community groups and organizations that galvanize the voices of those that have been less heard, and they appear on our programs. We did a special Black History Month and covered the history of music and the influence of black music in the United States. It's quite a remarkable arrangement of activities that go on all year long. And some of our main partners that work with us throughout the year with rock solid relationships. The chief of police and the police department, we have worked on aggressive policies and de-escalation policies together. We have worked on organizing families' freedom to communicate, visit the police department, sit down with the police, children and families, And now it's an institution through the Dedham Equity and Inclusion Group that goes on every month with our police department. Our churches. We have worked with the churches, and that range from the Catholic Church to churches that don't believe in a deity like the First Church, and to the traditional Protestant churches. In all of our programs, these religious organizations, who are some of our best friends and work with us, put down all the denominational differences and accept the universal worth and value of every single person, no matter what your choice of life is or what nature has brought to you in your inherited being. And that we work together for the betterment of all without any disruption or hesitation and interference by doctrinal differences. It's just an outstanding phenomenon that's happened, and it goes on all year long. The library, the same thing with book choices, with mental health programs, with programming at the library. We brought over 100 people to talk about suicide and mental health conditions. The room was full of experts and social workers and medical professionals. What an outstanding event that benefited this town. Public schools. If any of you that have been through the Martin Luther King events know what that takes to get the students involved, the music involved, the band involved, students to look forward to participating and writing an essay or sharing an aspect of their life on what it's meant to them. And now we're going to work with the school to try to get that to go on all year long and let Martin Luther King be a showcase for what students are doing in their lives throughout the year and bring that to MLK Day. We had the Dedham Choral Society join us this year. We keep getting new members. The people who participate in Dedham's activities, these are top of the line people because of the credibility that we've been able to produce with our programs. We had the first African American chair of this Discrimination Commission, the head of the Racial Justice Program for the American Civil Liberties Union, Harvard professor Randall Kennedy in government. William Gould's ancestor came from Stanford University and spoke at one of our events. And then I'll lastly wrap it up with letting you know and be proud of what your commission has done statewide. When we first came here to the town meeting to be formed, there were about 16 human rights commissions in the state of Massachusetts. That number is doubled now. And when it comes to human rights groups that don't have the status of one that's created by town meeting or a select board, there's 50 in the state right now. And we are constantly come to for guidance and direction. We have helped a half a dozen towns form human rights commissions and human rights standing groups through their select boards or their town meetings. I personally mediated the formation of a human rights commission in the town of Hamilton. We work with Duxbury and Hingham and Wayland and many other towns. And lastly, in addition to working with all the other human rights commissions, we work with the Cape and the South Shore. There's 29 communities and groups that have worked together for 2 years, and the number keeps growing. And I attend a meeting with them every single month. And I'll let all of you know that the things that we struggle with in town and the things that you worry about, they're the same things that all of these towns are struggling with. There's not a single meeting that I go to that doesn't have the same concerns and the same themes. And so one of the things we would like to do for
Joe, I'm
this...
going to have to ask you to
okay.
time-wise,
okay.
just to wrap, no, just wrap it up, please.
Just in wrapping up, if we can do one more contribution to this town, is to help people get together and learn how to talk and commune and work together without the social media, without the hyperbole, without the ad hominem attacks, without the calling in of hate groups from the outside to target and attack ideas and people that we don't like. We really are spending our time in some of our meetings to find out ways that we can do this and be the town that we deserve to be and be our better selves all year long, not just at these events. Thanks,
Joe. Thanks, Chris. Well, you said 6:30 to 9. We started at 6:40. So just want to take a moment to say thank you to all the speakers and all the departments. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of thought that went into what you were going to say in such a narrow amount of time, and that was the point, is to sort of have a round robin of just getting up and saying a few things. And you know, the code that's up here, the QR code, has a lot of more background information that's available for today, tomorrow, and it's all on the town webpage. And just want to finally just a few thank yous. Thank you to Dr. Kelly, the school department. I'm sorry I don't know the individual's name in the audio visual, but thank you for coming in tonight and really making it a seamless process of microphones and being able to show the speakers' names. And to Nancy Baker, Amanda, and others within the town manager's office for all the work they did. Joe Hamilton, Joe had the tough job tonight on the clock. I don't think that we had to sing off anybody tonight, but Joe, thanks for always being there for us and in volunteering and making sure that things went smoothly tonight. So a lot was talked about tonight. And going forward, as we have a debrief and figure where do we go from here, what do we do next year, or what do we do in 6 months? I don't know. But I do know that it's important that we as a community get together and listen, because that's what we did tonight. We all listened. And you have questions, send the questions into the departments and the people that you heard speak tonight, or come up and see them. Everybody's approachable, and have a conversation and let them know what you think or anything else you want to do. And I was reminded, this is of course, a posted select board meeting, and we always start our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't do that tonight. So the way in which we're going to end this meeting tonight is we're going to pledge allegiance to our flag and then go home. So please rise, take off your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good night.